So, Jimmy, as a former Navy SEAL and as somebody who really deals with this on a daily basis, the safety of not just schools, but churches and other locations throughout this country, what was your initial reaction to this tragic event in Texas?
This is always rough for me. So when I hear this as a father of four and somebody who has devoted his life to taking care of one another, from John, it says love one another, and the way that we say that around here is take care of one another, like show us that, and we do this every day minus Sunday, and we pour into it, saying that typically 2 weeks after an event, the nation forgets. Well, the families don't forget. And the people that are involved directly don't forget, and we don't forget. So it stings. It's a somber thing. And I remember when I saw this news, I was in a business meeting. I turned around, I said, "Work harder, guys." So even today, as we speak, I'm watching because I've got people at my kids' school right now because there's a potential for copycat, and I just got news that north of town there's an active shooter response happening right now. So I don't know particulars on that, but I just had to let the team know, hey guys, stay vigilant because we got 2 days left, and it breaks my heart knowing that the energy in my house, me saying things like, finish strong, guys, only a couple more days. I mean, we're getting a puppy. We're going to go on vacation for the first time since we started the business. And it wrecks me knowing that there's 19 families that all ended yesterday or a couple days ago.
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about the other kids in that room. You think about those who, obviously the families of those who died, which is absolutely horrific. And then I think about the children who survived and saw what they saw. I think about the first responders, who have to go in and look and see these things. There's so many layers to the tragedy here. And what immediately happens is the country erupts into political debate, right? There's immediate debate about guns, immediate debate about... But I want to talk practically here because this is what you do. The safety of people, as you were just saying, instilling that and making sure people are trained properly. What would you say is the biggest thing right now? And I know this is probably going to force you into a generalization, but I would love to hear your thoughts, that schools don't currently have a resource they don't have that they need in order to be prepared for something like this.
To refine it, there's a bigger conversation here, and if we have time for that, I'd love to have that or
Sure.
at least touch it. But the immediately, people need to be trained. So teaching has changed. That occupation, it's unfortunate. I hate that I have to say that, but it has. So being a teacher has changed. There needs to be more trained individuals. Meaning, we say it this way: in an emergency, everyone has a role. Everyone has a responsibility. It doesn't mean they're going to grab a gun and neutralize a threat, but you might be aiding a little girl. You might be evacuating with a bunch of kids while keeping them quiet. You do have a role, and there requires training, and you must practice that. The second thing would be when I say architectural design, there's two schools of thought here, and one of them is called CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So having that is one part of it. There's another thing called target hardening, where those two meet is our future, is the future of schools, and it's needed immediately. It's not one or the other, it's both. So designing schools differently. And then the third thing would be what I call a protector culture, but let's just go ahead and call it a safety culture. My podcast is Protector Culture Podcast. But a safety culture means there needs to be a paradigm shift in our thinking. To say that it's not a teacher's job to protect kids, I would argue with that and say it's every adult's job to protect children. What does that mean? It means if you're inconvenienced by going through one door to have one entry point, so be it. We like the kids to be able to get in and out quickly so they can get back from lunch. It's time to be inconvenienced and restructure things because it's cost us gravely.
Yeah, and a lot of people have obviously called for armed guards at schools, for security of some sort, and a lot of schools already have that. There have been a number of events and even some claims about this particular event where you would say, okay, well, there was an armed guard there and they weren't able to stop it. And so there might be some critiques of that. And of course, that's oversimplifying because there are lots of other details in the mix when these events happen. But how would you respond to somebody who might say that it's a bad idea to have an armed guard at a school, or maybe it's an ineffective idea to solving this problem?
I would humbly ask them their recommendation because it's not working. Tell that to 19 families right now, that this isn't working. It means that this is an uphill battle, but our kids are worth it. I'm talking about law enforcement too. There are huge gaps in here. My background, SEAL teams. I was a CIA bodyguard overseas in Benghazi, Libya. This model exists. And if you're saying it can't be done, I would argue that because I do it every day. Again, minus Sunday, we are in here. This is what we do every day. And the people that come in here aren't SWAT team Navy SEALs. They are individuals that say, I want to take care of my children. And I can prove it to you. So yes, you've been doing it inefficiently, and yes, you've been doing it wrong. And I don't care if it's the janitor that smacks the guy over the head with a broom. I want to see my kids again. I don't care who gets the glory or the honor of whatever. It just means that I want to see my kids again. So it means that if that way has not worked and it's costing us dearly, then we need to look at something else. And that bigger conversation that I alluded to, I see it this way, and this is my lot in life. This is my mission in life, is that on the day, and I just said this, and this is horrible, at May 7th, I was just reviewing a video, was the anniversary of the STEM shooting. And I was asked to speak as a man of God that knows a little bit about this. On the spot, Jimmy, can you come up here and speak? By Kendrick Castillo's father, John. The hero, Kendrick, that tackled a shooter and lost his own life, but saved countless others. So I was asked to come up and speak, and I had to say this. On the day that someone decides to go in and start shooting up kids, on that day, I don't care about your dad. I don't care about your mental health issues. I don't care about your entire situation, because now it's just turned to neutralize a threat. And that is unfortunate. But holistically, I do care. I do care. How did that kid get that jacked up? How did we get here? How did he get that, damage that he's going to entertain walking in and shooting up small children? So you can't look at one and not the other. So I focus on both simultaneously. How do I pursue, in my case, the hearts of men, that they would raise stronger children that would never fathom that? If you don't look at both, you're chasing your tail indefinitely, and you'll never catch it. It's just, you can't do it. There's no success there. So it must be that, on this end, do both with your whole heart and pray to God they come in the middle. They meet in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem that we also don't talk about stories of having armed guards at schools where they've stopped things, right? We don't often hear, we don't know that
Right.
full scope, and even in
Right.
this Texas case, from what I understand and from what we've seen, by exchanging gunfire with the shooter, there was actually a point at which some of the ammunition was purportedly dropped, so who knows how much worse the situation could have been had there not been that exchange. So again, it's a lot of this is trying to sort of distill details and figure things out. One of the newer details in this was that there were parents outside urging cops to rush in to the building, that there was maybe an hour gap in time, that he had been in the building for a little bit of time. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, because I think the initial reaction people will have is, well, why didn't the cops go in right away? Or why, you deal with neutralizing these situations and training people. So what do people need to understand about maybe the chaos of those moments?
Again, being completely respectful of law enforcement. When I dipped my toe in this water, I didn't know I was a subject matter expert in active shooter. Being a SEAL and I looked into this, and then I heard other people talk, and I'm like, very little. So I must enter this conversation. So most officers are not prepared for this. Period. That's just the truth. And how do I know that? Because I evaluate police officers for a living. I evaluate security teams and other trainings out there. And there's very simple steps to say that if I boiled it down, it would just say, show me. We can simulate pretty much anything now. I can go in that room right there and have you engage real people with real guns, and they're going to fall over. That's real bullets coming at them. They're just training munitions. And when you introduce real people, there's a change. So you can check all the boxes you want. If you don't possess a capability, you shouldn't be carrying a firearm. So that's been skipped. And like arming teachers, for example, people ask, are they capable of that? I said, depends on the teacher. If they can show me a standard that replicates the job they're going to do, when I get their heart beating and I send them in to do it, then I would entertain that. And if they can't, the answer is simply no. I don't know how that got skipped on a life and death responsibility.
Yeah, and that debate and discussion is interesting too, because most of the people I've talked with who train teachers will say, if you're a teacher who doesn't want to carry or is afraid to, then you shouldn't, right? So if you feel like you're capable and you've been trained to do it and you've been assessed and they feel that it's possible, then you would do it. So what you just said would seem to be the general, not that you're mandating that every teacher carry, and nobody has. I mean, that has not been, but it is an interesting discussion point. What would you say to people right now who are fearful? They're fearful. They maybe don't know how to react in a situation like that. And they're wondering, God forbid, I'm in a supermarket now. You have to worry about supermarkets too, apparently, or a school or a church, and something like this happens. what should I do? I mean, are there any tips or pieces of advice you have for those people?
There are, and we push this hard because and fearful is a big word, as a Christian man, I don't live a fearful life. People say he's paranoid, he lives fearful. You don't know me very well. I take men into the mountains on motorcycles. We do all this stuff. We're loving that stuff. I want to be a part of it. It's going to be fun, right? Because I've earned that, and I feel like I'm living well because others I know can't. They've lost their lives, and with the memorial coming up today, it's an emotional thing for me. But I am called to do more and called to add more. So what I would say is that it is a responsibility, I think, to give people the tools to be successful, to consider this for yourself as well. We call it defend. It started with run, hide, fight. If you're familiar with that out of Texas, it was run, then hide, then fight. That's a good thing to think of, but it's lacking. So they don't teach people how to run, where to hide, or how to fight, and then they call it good. We took another stab at it, and we call it the defend modules. That's DEFEND, so it's an acrostic. It spells defend. The first D is defense. Like, you need to know how to protect yourself. You need to know if somebody's going to punch you in the face, you need to know how to lean forward and get your hands up so you don't get knocked unconscious. But defense also talks about that armed response. It's very wide, but truly it's the only thing that's worked since the beginning of time. Someone's saying to get to them, you have to go through me. So it's very broad on that defense portion. The next one's E for evacuate. If you don't know where you're going when you leave, the kids should know it, the teachers should know it. You should actually walk across the street into that place. If it's a church, if it's a school, if it's a business, meet the people, because by doing so, you'll remember where to go. You can't just say evacuate and expect people to know what they're doing. F is fortify, so to be able to fortify or lock down. Recently, there was a video during a school shooting where the police just busted out the window of the classroom, reached around and unlocked the door. That said it all. You're not fortified. You're saying we're on lockdown. No, you're not. It's easy to get in there. The cop just showed you how, right? So the shooter could do the same thing, so you're not safe hiding in the corner with a locked door with a glass panel in it. There's things we can do to make that more realistic. The next E is for emergency medical aid. It means simply, can you stop somebody from bleeding badly? We focus, it's very efficient, maybe a 1-2 hours with scenarios that anybody could do. It means tourniquets, it means wound packing, and it means chest seals. It's very easy stuff, but everybody has a role. Your role that you didn't pick was a little girl walked in and she's bleeding badly. You need to be able to stop that. N is notify others in your immediate area. That means on some of these larger campuses, there could be a shooting going on in one part of a church or a school, and people are in danger, but they don't even know it. They're still singing, or they're still doing their homework or something like that. So a notification system that lets them know, hey, you're in danger. And then D is dial 911. Technology can help us here. If we hit a button and it notifies others while notifying the police officers, it's a better deal. So that's the 6 I would recommend.
And just as we sort of close out here, what have you seen? And first of all, before I even ask this question, it sounds like what you're saying is it's a good idea for everybody to be prepared for whatever could happen. I mean, this is something, just being prepared in general seems like the right thing to do, correct?
Yeah. Our nation, I'll go down this road. Our nation continues to build higher, while simultaneously chipping away at the foundation. There are repercussions for that. There's consequences, and we're living them, and it's just getting started. And I'm not a doomsday guy, whatever. I've read the back of the book. I know we win, but it's a real thing, and it's coming. And I said, in an emergency, everyone has a responsibility. You need to pray about what yours is. Some people have a burning in their chest saying, to get to them, you got to go through me. They need to make that capability a responsible one.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think to speak on what you're saying a little bit too, we're watching the erosion of values, the decision to sort of say, God, we don't really care what you think, we're going to live the way we want. And we've got an entire society that has really been telling its young people that, they're the only truth they ever need. They get to decide what it is they want to believe. And I'm not, of course, speaking into any specific incident here. I am saying that this is the culture that we're living in right now. And I do think we're watching the results of that culture play out in real time. And I would agree, and feel free to speak on this after, I would agree that we probably are just beginning to see the effects of what that worldview looks like.
That's exactly right. These consequences are coming, and we have not fully felt the effects of COVID and the social problems that we caused. And I would enlist people. I'll say it, beg. I'm begging you. I love this country, and it breaks my heart to see what's happening. Stop repeating lies. Your lies don't live in me. We need better models out there. Instead of saying, what can one man do? Start saying, try to keep up. That's what I'm doing. I'm going all out and I'm inviting everybody with me. My company's called Able Shepherd. To me, shepherd means I'm going to protect you if you're being attacked, but there's 50 attacks a day. But I'm also going to grow with you and I'm going to lead you. So in my definition, a shepherd, he doesn't try to force you through the gate. I'm going to go this way and invite you, and then you're going to follow me by your choice. But if more people did that, we'd live in a safer world. And we don't have to win. You must fight. There's no honor there's no honor in not fighting. There's in fighting and losing. That's still honorable, and I think people see that it looks unwinnable. I'm not going to do it. Well, there's still honor in that, and to some of us, honor still means something. So I would plead with people to return to the foundation that built this nation.
So last question for you. When it comes to events like what we saw happen in Texas and Buffalo and all over this country in different venues and places, what have you seen, or what do you believe to be the most effective means for preventing something like this? I know we've kind of talked around this, but I'm talking about cases you've seen happen that have been successful at thwarting these things. What is the best way to do that?
Jesus. If you're asking me, like I tell people, if you want a different answer, ask a different guy. There are biblical foundations that built this nation. They're proven to work, and we've chosen not to use them. There's nothing wrong with the plan. We just didn't do it, right? So to getting back to that, and if that word doesn't work for viewers or listeners, how about light? It's better than dark. Love is actually stronger than hate. This is sustainable. If you leave that, it creates a world that I don't want to live in. But if you model that, you start drawing other people. Jerry Boykin said this, and I love it. In darker days, which we're living now, he said, where the truth is spoken, people will gather. I have thousands of people here that we've trained. We have hundreds that come in here every month, rotate through these doors, and the inertia, the energy that we've created here, it's just like the other side. It's contagious, So I would say that's we need to return, and we need to back up, slow down all this progression, return to our values. And again, I'm in charge of 4 little world changers that are growing up in my house. They're not hearing this garbage. And if they do, there's a conversation, but they know the truth. And it's my job to do that.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Please visit us at ableshepherd.com. If you have any questions for us, let us know. If you need resources to tighten up your team or to grow your team, we'll send them as soon as we can. So appreciate it.
Thanks so much.